welcome to the Stories with Sash podcast, the podcast in which we try and solve motoring-related queries and other bits and pieces as well. It's been a little while, but the trio are back. That's, me, Mike, and Rob. Chaps, welcome to the channel. I know it's been a little while. We've all been busy, but how are we all?
Go on, Rob.
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. Got lots of motoring-related content from the last podcast, so looking forward to sharing that.
Oh, okay. Good stuff. Mike?
Yeah, I'm good. Great content for the podcast, but absolute shocker with my car. It's still currently sat out in the street, non-running, so that's always good.
Well, let's go straight to it then, because obviously we normally ask at this point in the podcast what we've been up to in the past few weeks since we last spoke to each other. So, Mike, I'll let you go first in the subject of, you've already mentioned it, so we may as well get straight to it. BMW ownership, how's that going for you?
Yeah, it's going great, mate. It's exactly as expected, seeing as this is the second time I've had this issue with two separate BMWs. This one is a bit catastrophic than the last. So that's hence why it's currently still non-running, which is, to be fair, it's a small fix, but I just haven't got around to doing it yet. So I was taking some stuff down to the tip on the weekend, because obviously I'm moving and that, so I had to clear some stuff out. Chucked in the back of the Beamer, because a coupe BMW from the early noughties is the most practical car there is. So chucked the old bathroom in there, put it in the boot, took that down. And,
Sorry, the old bathroom?
Yeah, I redid my bathroom. So it's got like a toilet and a sink in it. It's still sat in the boot. I couldn't take it to the tip because it ended up blowing up halfway down the queue.
You have like all your skid marked toilets in the boot of your BMW?
Yes, I do.
On the
back of a coupe.
Well, he's obviously bleached them a few times since then. I hope.
He's going to the tip.
No. Fair enough. So you're saying that when you do get around to driving your BMW again, it's going to smell of feces?
No.
Hopefully not. You need one of those can-do fresheners. Not can-do, that wipes your bum. You know what I mean? The little.
Maybe that's why I need them.
So sorry.
With nappies.
Go on. So you were on your way to the tip.
Yeah, on the way. And obviously, with all the restrictions at the minute, things are taking a little bit longer than anticipated, and it's usually quite a big queue down there anyway. So the queue was like maybe about an hour or so long, and I needed to get rid of the stuff because I've got house viewings and all the rest of it. So waiting in my car, bearing in mind the day before to go and view some houses, I'd already driven down the M5 for like an hour and a half. So I'd done a fairly large journey in the car, and it was all fine. Just had its MOT the other week as well, no issues, all good. And sat in the queue. Got two cars to the front of the queue, all of a sudden they hear this massive bang and then just steam everywhere. And I was just like, as soon as it happened, because it's not the first time it's happened, just turn the car off, open the door, and I look down on the floor, and it's just dumped the entire radiator's worth of fluid everywhere, all over the road.
Dear,
so
blimey.
It was in a queue in an industrial estate, stationary, so there was no issues. I literally just turned the car off, and that was happy days. If it happened on the M5, I'd have been the person clogging up the motorway, steaming that everywhere. But what it ended up being it was for lack of a better word, it was a catastrophic failure of the coolant expansion tank.
Oh, brilliant!
It just completely, shattered.
I saw the photo you sent. It looked like it had a massive crack in it.
Top to bottom, just blew the side of it off essentially, because they're under quite a bit of pressure. Those.
That's like the BMW decided to reenact Chernobyl, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. And it's currently non-running for a number of reasons at the minute. Obviously, that being the main one. So then, as soon as it happened, I was like, I need my car. It's a fairly easy fix. You can pick them up for like 30 quid, a new expansion tank. So I popped down Euro car parts, picked one up, and then went to go and fit it today. And in the bottom of it, because it clips onto a bunch of different pipes, and you've got the pipes coming in the top as well, but it's got like a main one at the very bottom. And the new one, the new expansion tank, doesn't have an O-ring. And I was like, fine, take the O-ring out of the old one, put it in. But O-rings have like a little cutout where they sit whenever you put in stuff. Just doesn't have one. Just literally does not have a cut. So I was like, well, what am I supposed to do in this situation? So put the O-ring in, just thought I'd test it anyway, went to put it down. I was like, all right, this is not going to work. Sure enough, poured water in, dumped straight back out the bottom. So I think I have to take that one back and get a better one. Just
What we're
doesn't
saying
seem.
is Euro car parts don't stock the correct part for your make and model of car. That's happening before. Have you, Sash?
I've
It's
had that happen to me loads of times.
Oh, I went to Euro car parts and picked up the wrong part.
Do you know what I have to say? Sorry, like to interrupt you, Mike, but I have to say, Euro Car Parts has got slightly worse over the years about stocking correct parts for the make and model of the car that you actually have. Not you specifically, but everyone. Honestly, I went about 7 times to get a fuel filter for the Fiat Cinquecento, and they just kept giving me the wrong one. They gave me one for a Fiat Uno, Fiat Panda, Fiat Multipla. So literally every single fuel filter bar one for a Cinquecento. And eventually they didn't actually stock the one I had there. I was like, why have you advertised that you do then? Because it's obviously wrong. Anyway, that's my rant over. So you need to source a new expansion bottle, Mike.
Yeah, I'm going to take this one back to Euro Car Parts and just be like, how come you're selling parts for a liquid system with no seals? Like, what? It doesn't make any sense, considering it's a pressurized system as well.
I'd try eBay if I was you.
I know, but I wanted it right there and then, and they stocked it on the day, so I was like, I'll just go and pick it up.
No, I get why you did what you did, but I think forget your car parts like now. Just focus your efforts on eBay or something, or maybe another supplier. I don't know, like.
Well, also like this one feels a bit crap, so I think I'm gonna have to buy another
cheap.
Yeah,
maybe it might even be worth like getting one off a BMW like used, but maybe like a low mileage one from like a scrapyard or like something that's been like written off or whatever, and the expansion bottle's only good. Like you say, your car's done 130,000 or whatever many miles on that expansion bottle. I can't imagine it's had a new one that the replacement's in. So
BMW
good for a while.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, I've never heard that happen before about an expansion tank actually exploding.
I mean, I looked it up on the forums and that, and apparently it's pretty common. I mean, it makes sense. It's a plastic tank that gets hot and cold regularly, and it's been sat there for 19 years. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
What's the wall thickness? Plastic.
Oh, it's thick. Like, it's a pretty chunky piece of kit. It's like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I have to say, I'm not gonna blow smoke up your bottom, Rob, but the Bora's on about 210,000 miles, and it hasn't had that problem.
What's funny is that
but it is diesel.
Every Volkswagen I've ever owned has always had the same expansion bottle, and all the ones my mum's owned have always had that. That is a significant crack in yours. I mean, people
Yeah, sorry to all the listeners, but I'm just showing the expansion tank, and it's catastrophic is the only word I can really kind of explain it with.
That's definitely not salvageable, is it?
No amount of duct tape and silicone.
What's good about the way that Volkswagen do their expansion bottles is that they're spherical, so they have an even pressure distribution around them, whereas BMW clearly haven't applied the same logic to your square cylinder there, Mike.
No, but it fits in the engine bay, doesn't it?
How much excess room do you have in your engine bay that you needed to save space?
Oh, absolutely none. That was a bloody nightmare. We're trying to get that out as well. I had to get it out with a crowbar. That wasn't fun.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh yeah, it just pops off really easily. Just like give it a little bit of welly. And then as I got further and further down the videos, those people like, yeah, just hit them with a hammer really hard. I'd run underneath and they'll start coming. I was like, I'm not jacking my car up just to take an expansion tank off. So ended up getting a crowbar under it. That worked.
Brute force, always the winner. Okay, so you currently, it's coming up to a year now, because I remember we picked that car up in January of this year, I think, didn't we? So it's coming up to a year of ownership. So that is probably that's the first time that is actually kind of let you down in the sense of it hasn't got you. Well, admittedly, you did arrive at the tip, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
So you actually arrived to your destination, but you couldn't return home. So I'll give that like a half point in terms of, stranding you on the side of the road, but it's better than being on the M5. So it's not exactly the end of the world, but fair enough. That's a fairly straightforward fix once you found the part, so I could forgive it for that. But Rob, have you got any exciting news over the past couple of weeks, motoring related or whatever?
I've got 2 exciting pieces of news. I'll start with I think I'll start with the more exciting pieces of news. So I tried an app out that we have here in Dubai, where you basically put your location, your make, model, and number plate of your car in, and then you can select fuel to be delivered at a given time to your house. And
the most UAE thing I've ever heard in my life.
the best part about it is pay pump prices. So you don't
This
pay
is ridiculous.
at the petrol station. So you can schedule it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can be fast asleep in your bed, and someone will come and refuel your car.
What happens? You need your key.
Yeah.
No. So you open the car, open the fuel filler cap, and then just lock it again.
So overnight, when it's siphoning your tank, is it?
Someone could do that, yeah. But I mean, in the UK, this could cause issues. Basically,
I was going to say this wouldn't work in the UK, would it?
We all live in like gated communities with like security on the thing, and like if the man comes to deliver fuel, he's like, yeah, you can come in because you can deliver fuel. Which kind of falls over if you did want to make merry with someone's fuel tank, because if you just say, oh yeah, I'm just going to there to visit, then the security guy will be like, okay, sure, just give me your like ID card and I'll just write it down and you can come in. But anyway, people don't need to piss in your fuel tank here. Which would happen if in the UK you just saw like a line of fuel filler caps open, someone would just wander up and take a slash in a fuel tank. And then
I have.
You have, Sash has.
I haven't really. Just for the listeners, I'm not that sick. But so you've actually now experienced this this app. You've actually tried it out for yourself.
Yeah. And you just so obviously you have credit card details. It's brilliant. Like you can do it like, oh, I'm at the office or I'm at the mall or something, and you can just be like, oh, I need some fuel, and you just go fuel me up, and it'll come within like, if you do it like at the right time of day, they'll be like, oh yeah, we'll be there in 45 minutes and give you some petrol.
I just find it weird how you could like be fast asleep. You get home, say you've got, I don't know, a quarter of a tank left, and you say, oh, fancy a refill tonight or whatever. You get into your car in the morning and it's full up. Like, what? That's like miracles. Miracles have actually happened. Like that must be a weird thing. Like I've obviously that can't happen because for most people, unless somebody else fills your car up for you, your car you're always there. When you fill your car up. So.
Also, quick question, Rob. Do they turn up in like a tanker, or is it like a small, fairly small tanker?
Why am I imagining a Deliveroo scooter or something with jerry cans?
2 jerry cans on the side of a scooter.
The app also has like car washing services that you can say, I want a car wash, and someone will arrive on a 125 and wash your car for you. Obviously, you pay for that. Yeah. People will also do oil changes. You can just ask them to come to where you are and do an oil change. I don't know why you'd want that. And then there's apparently supposed to be like a new service where people will also like arrive and change your tires.
Oh wow, that's incredible. That's really good.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
What about remind me? So how do they come? Do they come in a tanker or what?
Yeah, it's like a little 7.5 ton truck. It's not that much. It's
7.5 ton.
Just a small one, small 7.5 ton.
It's more fuel. I mean, it's like a small van. It's a little bit bigger than like a high ace type thing.
Would it fit down a one-way street in the middle of Bristol?
Oh yeah, 100%. It's not as big as like a transit.
Okay, so it is tiny then.
Yeah, it's
like
small.
It's really, really small tankers, like really, really tiny ones. It's sort of like a street sweeper, fuel tank on the back.
It's smaller than a street sweeper.
All right, fair enough.
Really?
It's the size of a really small van. I'll tell you what I'll do is I will, while we're in the chat, I'll just
send us a photo.
Yeah, that sounds cool. The idea behind it is pretty good.
I agree. I think it's an excellent idea. I just can't see it working in this country. Like,
no, I agree.
I just don't think we have the right roads for it, infrastructure, you name it. People pissing into each other's fuel fillers, that sort of problem. That's going to happen. Because let's face it, we are the nation that if you, I see. Oh, that's cool. Oh, right, okay. That's bigger than a road sweep. Rob, for God's sake, what road sweep? We're talking about a UK road sweeper here. Not an Abu Dhabi one.
Yeah, it's the size of a road sweeper then.
Right. Okay. Interesting. So that was your more exciting bit of news? What is your slightly less exciting bit of news for the viewers or listeners?
What are you doing?
Have you got a dog? You've got a dog. Is he part of the podcast? Well, get him on. He looks more interesting than you.
Say hi. Come on.
Sorry, viewers. Just for those who can't see the video, which you can't because this will just be available on Spotify, but there's a dog on screen or in our presence.
You always have to.
What do we say those?
For a dog.
Mm-hmm.
So Joey,
he's cute.
Is part of the other motoring related story this week.
Does he drive?
Apparently, yeah, he does. When I'm not there and I leave my keys unattended, he drives the car.
Is that who fills in the tank for you?
He makes sure that they put the right fuel in. So he goes out when the man arrives to do the fuel, and he's just like
just a man with diesel just trying to fill up Ross Golf R.
This is the thing, you can select 98, 95 or diesel, and I was just worried that I would get diesel and then I'd be really upset because my car wouldn't work.
Regardless of what you pick, no matter what petrol you pick, you're getting 89. Let's be real.
89?
Yeah, they're just putting the cheapest thing they can get in there.
Octane level 75.
It runs. No, because you can always tell when you put like less good fuel in.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, I agree.
It hasn't affected the performance. Anyway, no. Something else that we did this week, didn't we, Joey? Is we went to because we're up in Dubai. I went to up one of the other mountains.
Is he gone for you?
Oh, he's gone for me, mate. There we go.
Okay.
We'll have to
Rob,
cut
get back. Yeah, we have to edit that out. Joey, can you edit that out?
Yeah, Joey's gonna go and
So you went up to the mountains with your new dog.
Yeah, but it turns out he doesn't really do fast turns in the Golf, doing switchbacks in a hurry because
oh no,
poor Joey was slightly unwell.
Oh no, did he vomit in your Golf?
No, we got him out of the car in time, but he didn't vomit.
So what you're saying is, what you're saying is, when they get those adverts that say keep your windows open because dogs die in hot cars, what you should really say is dogs can feel ill in Golf R's driving on switchback roads.
Yeah, basically.
You're a maniac.
But yeah, no, that was exceptionally good fun. The only problem with that is some of the road had washed away the last time it rained, because when it rains here, it's like happens once a year, bits of the country wash away. So the road was kind of a bit broken in places, so I had to take my Golf R off-roading, which I wasn't particularly happy about, and that upset the tyre pressures, and the tyre pressure sensor monitoring thing had a hissy fit, and it was all a pain in the arse.
Oh. But Rob, I mean, it should be a capable off-road vehicle because it has got four-wheel drive, right?
Yeah, it's slightly.
Very good point.
I think there's quite limited axle articulation that you could justify it not being really a capable off-road vehicle.
So let me just put it to you this way: which is more off-road capable, Fiat Cinquecento or a Golf R?
Well, I'd care less about driving your Fiat Cinquecento across crap roads.
I think that's all an off-roader needs to be, is a car that you don't care about. So Sash wins on the off-roading category here.
Get in.
I mean, you could do like 1.5 kilometers of bad roads in Sash's car, and all that will be left is a steering wheel. If you really hit it hard, it'll be there like a cartoon character.
I think that's slightly unfair, but yeah, we'll quickly move it on. So that was your less exciting bit of news for the listeners.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I haven't really got any news to really share with you this time, apart from what we've already discussed before. So I'll move it on to the main topic for today, which I've actually been quite looking forward to, actually, because I feel like you can tell a lot about a person through their car history. And as I've already given away, what we want to talk about is our parents' car history per se. What our parents have owned over the years, long before we were born, when we were born, when we were around, when we were little, what did we go to school in, etc., etc. All of these really exciting things, I think. And I'd like to say, I think you can tell a lot. So I'm not sure what's the best way of doing this, but we can just wing it, really. Now, I feel like Mike should go probably first on this because I feel like he's got quite a comprehensive list or quite a long list of cars. I've got a fair few. So, Mike, do you want to take it away? So I'd just like to point out at this point, although Mike can, I'm sure, elaborate, Mike's dad is, I've had to say, a big, huge car enthusiast as well. His current drive, which you can tell the viewers, is quite a nice...
it's not anymore, mate.
Call it? Oh,
he's got rid.
Oh, no.
This is why the list is so long. He's averaged more than one car every year since he passed his test.
And how many years has he passed his test?
We passed his test 17, and now he's 60 something.
Wow, so we're talking a good. Well, you can give us, we can go into detail about it, So, I mean, first and foremost, Pinnacle. What was his first car?
I don't actually know which one of these was his first. I won't lie. Probably should have asked him which one was the first one, but he's done it in rough enough age order. So I think the Ford Anglia may have been one of the first.
Oh, wow. Did you know the Ford Anglia was the car that the highway code was based on?
I did not. That is an interesting little fact there, Sash.
Probably still
Fun
is.
fact for the pub. It still is. Like the braking distance from 60 miles an hour is the distance that a Ford Anglia can do it in.
So every time they need to update it, is to roll out a Ford Anglia.
Yeah, no, genuinely, like they don't bother changing it. Like, anyway, I won't go into it now. So sorry, you said Ford Anglia, maybe his first.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, there's a fair few here. So I'll tell you what I'll do is we can rattle through the list quite quickly, and then we'll just pick up on some interesting ones, shall we? We'll do it that way because there's a lot.
I think that's a good one. Good idea.
Say shite in there as well. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of filler. It's not all killer.
We all go through phases, so I can forgive your dad for that.
Yeah. So we'll just go through. Start off on the Ford Anglia, 105E, Morris Marina. He's got a VW Beetle, a VW Jetta, a Morris Ital Estate. I'm going to go.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, please.
I'll share the screen. And we'll,
I can't believe he had a Morris Marina and a Morris Ital. What?
All right.
Let me get a pen because I'm going to note down my favourites.
Can everyone see this there?
I can, yes.
Lovely. Right. So then after that, we go into the Vauxhall Cavalier Mark 1, which I think is a very good looking car.
I think that was one for someone collecting cars, actually. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Mark 3 Ford Escort, Cavalier Mark 2, which is a less good looking car significantly.
Oh, the Cavalier Mark 2. Oh, he had a 2CV!
He had a 2CV, but above that, 6 minis. He was really into his minis, still is. So he's owned at least 6. He said he couldn't remember all of them.
Wow.
And they were all, he'd done a couple of them to be hill climb vehicles. We'll get on to some of those bits in a bit. A Citroen Diane 6. Didn't even know what that was.
A Diane. I like a Diane.
Yeah. A Mini Metro. Another Beetle. And then we start getting into less desirable vehicles. Then we quickly go from the Beetle into the Peugeot 407.
Oh, God, the P word. Oh, no. No.
Then quickly back to a Peugeot 205 GTI.
Okay, good. So he redeemed himself from the Peugeot and the Rover 600 to a Peugeot 205. Okay, was it a 1.6 or a 1.9? That's the question.
So it was 1.6, but it's quite an interesting one. So he basically bought the 205 GTI off of a bloke who had blown the engine. So it was essentially just a shell. He got a shell for a Peugeot 205 GTI and then found 2 more down the scrapyard with engines in varying states of goodness. So then combined those 2 engines together and put them in this shell. So it was a Peugeot 205 GTI combined of 3 separate 205 GTIs.
That's interesting. And do you know what the annoying thing? I mean, we can go into more detail about this later, but they're worth so much money now.
Oh yeah. I was telling them this; they're worth quite a lot.
They're like 15 grand plus. It's ridiculous.
The hill on these to the Citroen Xantia diesel.
Do you know what? I rate that. But yeah, keep going.
And then you can see a little bit of family history here, Sash. He owned 3 Vauxhall Vectras.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Then this is where it gets a little bit boring.
That had those like swept wing mirrors.
What's that?
Yeah, was this pre your one, like the model before the one you had?
The
original.
Yeah.
No,
The
no,
original Vectra.
these are the same one as mine.
Oh, that's boring.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
At least you had sweep door mirrors with the first one. God.
He might have owned one, but I do definitely remember at least 2 Vauxhall Vectras that were the same as mine. So
Yeah.
he's got at least 2 of them there. And then the Renault Laguna diesel, which also an extremely boring car, if anyone's ever seen it. Toyota Hilux, VW Transporter, Ford Ranger. So it's like interdispersed of interesting and crap cars, because then you go straight in from there to the Jag XK8, which is
Nice.
interesting stuff as it goes. And then back down to the Kia Sportage, Kia Atomic,
Oh, God. Right.
Fiat Ducato van, and a Bedford Rascal van.
I do rate the Bedford Rascal. I do like a Rascal.
And then some
Is
more
that a Rover SD1? That's
It's
a
a
Rover SD1.
a Rover Vitesse.
I think that's
Vitesse?
a variation. I think that's a variation on an SD1. You know, I think that's like a
It
trim
is,
there.
yeah.
Oh,
It is.
I like the SD1.
Yeah. And then a 25 and a 75 as well. And that's pretty much the full extensive history.
Wow.
He's just about to get an electric vehicle, another Kia of some description.
Oh. So he sold the Jag.
He sold the Jag. He sold it to Kia.
Oh no, that's sacrilege. But I have to say that is quite a collection of cars. So how many roughly is in there in total? Probably what? Like it's got to be like 50 odd or something, or 40 odd.
Yeah, it's about 40 odd.
Wow.
Yeah. So the thing about these cars is he reckons about 80% of them, including some of the more recent ones, were bought with no MOT and just were all spares and repairs.
Wow.
That's why he owns so many. Because he drives them for like 12 months and they die. He just buys another car.
Oh, blimey. So, Rob, over to you. Is there any from this list that really tickles your fancy that you think, oh, yeah, I wish he still had that and I can have a go in that one. I wish I could have that. I'm guessing it's not the Peugeot 407. I'm guessing.
No, not really. Probably
are any of them interesting to you?
I quite like the Ford Anglia at the front. That was quite interesting because that's the same car from like Harry Potter, isn't it?
It is,
yes.
Yeah. And I believe in the Ford Anglia he had I think it was red or orange fur all on the dashboard.
Ooh, that's a bit interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. You can see where I get my sort of interesting car modifications from as you go down the list.
Are you going to cover the dashboard of your BMW in orange fur?
No, it's going to be in black fur to keep with all the feeling of the car on a bright red to match the interior. How about that?
Ooh, I think that would look disgusting.
Horrible.
I mean, I have to say, for me, like, some of the ones that stuck out, you know, the 205 GTI has obviously got to be up there. I think that's a great car. Other ones which I know Rob will disagree with me on, stuff like the 2CV, I think that's great. I think the 2CV is a great little car. The Chevette, that was quite nice. I do quite like the old Chevettes. Good looking car, as you say. 2CV. Diane, yeah, also very interesting. Peugeot, not so much. Mini Metro, yeah, no. Minis as well, good. Also, the SD1. I think the Rover SD1. I think that's a fantastic, car back in the day. Those would probably be my highlights, to be fair. I think very interesting car. So, but there is one thing that he's missed. Obviously, no Alfa Romeos. What's this guy? What's he on? What's going on?
Well, if you buy cars with no MOTs, Sash, the literal bottom of the pile is an Alfa Romeo. If you buy an Alfa with an MOT, you know it's broken. So why would you buy one you already know is broken?
Yeah, you're right. That's interesting. Well, okay, so I think we've had a good list there. So I haven't been as organised as you and done photos and everything. But Rob, would you like to go next?
I can. It'll be a quick chat, to be honest. Because you'll probably
Is it all
that...
silver VWs?
No, they weren't all silver.
It was Polo, Passat, Jetta, Charan.
I mean, you've got the first two right.
All in silver. All in silver. No, I haven't. Have I?
Mum's first car was a yellow VW Polo.
Nice.
Really odd
Yellow's
one.
the interesting thing in that.
Yeah. Then she had a white Passat, which we had for absolutely donkey's years.
Hmm.
What year was
And
that one?
then she had a Ford C-Max, which was terrible. But it was really
God.
useful because you could take the seats all the way out and use it as a van.
Man with van.
Man with van. Then Mum had a camper van, and now she's got a Skoda Yeti. So actually, she's only had
Practical vehicle.
Actually, I
So
really
it
like
sounds.
the Yeti.
Yeah.
I've really grown on the Yeti's really grown on me.
I remember when you first said she was going to get it, you were like, "This is disgusting. Why is she getting a Yeti? What a stupid car!" But I actually quite like the Yeti now as well. I think it's actually quite a good practical car.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. So Mum's car history is nowhere near as exciting as Mike's dad's because I think that she takes a different approach to Mike's dad, which is buys a car, tries to keep hold of it, as opposed to just buying it for a year for its MOT.
You've hit the nail on the head, Rob.
Yeah.
I think there's two different approaches here, as you've just said. So one for, like you say, keeping it for a long time, having a reliable vehicle, and just buying, as opposed to just buying something, keeping hold of it just so it just runs, and then when it dies or when the MOT expires, just get a new one. Both interesting approaches. It's funny how you guys mention that because I think my parents' car history is somewhere in the middle. Like my parents have owned cars recently for longer periods of time, but in the past it used to be not quite like a year short for like an MOT sort of standard, but a couple of years probably maximum. My dad used to get, well, we'll go through it. I think it's safe to say, kind of bored.
MX-5. Sorry,
The what? Sorry.
forgot the Mark 1 MX-5.
Oh, of course.
Just hit me in the head then. Sorry.
The ultimate car. Yeah. No. So I think my parents are somewhere like in the middle in terms of like, approaches to cars between your guys. So I'll run through again. This is a mixture of my mum and my dad's. But so first car that my dad ever owned and drove, and Mike, you'll really like this. And this is actually before he came to England. It was the only car he had. First car, BMW 2002.
Oh,
which we all know the 2002 is a fantastic looking car and extremely desirable now, which we can go on to later. So that was the car that he had before coming to the UK. Then the first car he got when he got to the UK was actually a Datsun 240Z, which again, another great car. Another great car.
That's about £50,000 now.
Yeah, both of those cars are worth big money. Relatively big money now, and both are, collector's cars for sure. Then, and then again, this isn't in exactly the right order, but my dad's owned kind of a mixture of a cross between Japanese and German cars, and then later other bits and pieces. So when he first met my mum, they both had Mark 1 VW Golfs, not GTIs. So my mum had a white one that he got for her, automatic, and he had a red one, which is funny between the two cars. His one never worked, but my mum's car was the most reliable thing that ever saw on this planet. The only thing it had problems with was rust in that era. So Mark 1 Golfs, not GTIs, as I say, probably GLs. Then things start to take a slight turn for the worse in some respects. So he went through a period of owning Datsuns or Nissans. So one of the ones that he had was, does anyone remember the Datsun Cherry?
No.
I remember that because I got taken to it at school and it didn't have rear seat belts. It just didn't come with rear seat belts. So I remember vividly going around the corner one day, the door wasn't properly closed and the door flung open and I was rolling approach. So he was going around a right-hand corner, the left side door opened and I nearly fell out the rear of the car. Luckily, because it's a Datsun Cherry, it was only going about 22. So I managed to save myself there. So that was quite intense. Then he had, and I love the names of these eras. Then he had a Datsun Bluebird, or a Nissan Bluebird, really, I should say. Massive car.
Nice, yeah.
Nice is not the word I describe. I mean, they were extremely comfortable, but a looker, quite square, quite blocked like as all Japanese cars were of that era. But yeah, give it a Google. As I said, I haven't compiled images or anything like that.
That's all right. That is
quite good looking, actually.
You like the Bluebird?
Yeah.
Yeah, hang on, I'm going to drop an image in the chat now. Hang on a second. I'll show you what I'm seeing.
I'm quite a fan of that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so far you guys are, you're saying.
I mean, Rob, that's one from Speed Hunters. That's probably like.
Yeah. It didn't look like that. It didn't
No.
look like that. So it didn't look like that. It was a later one. But sticking on the Nissan theme, he then went on to own a Nissan Sunny Sport, right?
Ooh.
Which actually, big fan of. It had a 1.6 twin cam engine. And he said, honestly, it was probably the car out of all of the ones that he's owned over the years that he really, not regretted selling, but really, really misses and would love the chance to own another one in the future if possible. Because apparently very, very light, quite powerful. Again, not a looker in my eyes, but good car. So that was kind of like the Nissan period. And then my mum and dad, they went to, and this would be right up your street, Mike, the BMW period. So between the two of them, they owned 5 BMW E30s over the years. So a variation between a 318 to a 320. I don't know. I don't think my dad went any bigger than a 320. I don't think he had a 325. But and in various guises. So cross between coupes and saloons, never an estate. And they were really nice cars. So yeah, they were, and again, those are cars that are worth kind of considerable lumps of money now, which is kind of annoying. So that was kind of like the BMW E30 period. And actually, my mum went on after that to have the car that we have had the longest in the family ever, which was a Mazda 323 Executive. Again, not a looker, but we had that car for just under 15 years in the family. And honestly, it never let us down. And prior to that, that was when she had her last E30 BMW. And now she's got a Yaris. So that's kind of like my mum's side done, because my mum just wants a car that will just live and get to the shops and stuff. So then, again, I'm jumping around a bit. My mum and dad, they briefly owned a Honda Integra. Don't know if you guys remember that. But again, nice car. And the best thing I remember as a kid, it had pop-up headlamps. So I used to be always on the switch with that. So that was great. And then we go into we'll go into the next period. So after that, my dad owned the only Audi he's ever owned, an Audi A4. But Mike, you'll be interested in this. It was a 1.8, nothing special, but rarer model. It had 5 cylinders.
Yeah, I do like the Audi 5-cylinder. Yeah.
And you know what? It revved quite high, actually. My dad absolutely loved that car. And while he had that car, he bought a BMW E39 5 Series, just the 520 manual. And he had the two for a while, side by side. And he couldn't decide for ages which one he was going to keep and which one he was going to get rid of. So he had the two for a while. And then eventually he decided actually to keep the Audi for a little bit longer and sell the 5 Series again. This was over a period of probably about a year or so. He had the two side by side. So you can see where I get my love of multiple car owning from. Yeah, because interestingly, I think he said for and again, if for the one listener who's listening at this point, I think the Audi was better around like twisty roads, but the 5 Series, because obviously a bit bigger, it was just a bit better on the sort of long sweeping bends and just sort of motorway stuff. That
Cruisy.
5 Series was lovely. That E39, what a car. I love that E39. So that was good. And again, prior to that, and again, I'm jumping around a little bit here because as this is just the order I've written it, we went through what we call the Fiat phase. So obviously we know the Fiats. So again, a lot of this happened. So prior to the 5 Series and stuff like that, he had the original Fiat Panda. Quite interesting because it was actually quite a rare engine nowadays. It was only the 750cc model.
750.
They did a 450, but that was extremely rare in the UK. So 750 was the next step up.
Why would you want a 450 engine? Is what I'm gonna. Yeah.
I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing. He bought that car. So my dad does a lot of delivering for his work, and he bought that car with 45,000 miles on the clock, and then he sold it 2 years later, and it had about 85 or 90,000. So he basically doubled the mileage on it. And literally, the car never put foot wrong. The only thing it did once was that one of the wires behind the steering wheel degraded, and the steering wheel may have slightly caught fire a little bit. But other than that, and started like melting the plastic. But other than that, never let him down. So for an old Fiat, I think that's. And I used to love that car as a kid, apparently, because the rear seats used to be quite elevated. So if you sat in the back, you could see quite clearly the road. So we had the Fiat, and then again, fast forward, recession happened, and things got a little bit tougher. So we had to downgrade a little bit, but no harm in that. So over the past few years, he's had 3 Fiat Seicentos, which is kind of where my love of the Fiat Cinquecento comes from, because they're just brilliant cars, as we all know, and just ultimate motorway cruisers.
Yeah.
No comments there. And then I think that's kind of it. The only car that I would say that he had was, and this is just, I left this one deliberately till last because it's an interesting one, is he owned an original Alfa Romeo Sud, an Alfa Sud, which I don't know if you guys recall, not a cloverleaf. It wasn't a 1.5 twin cam. I think it was a 1.3. So he ended up buying it off a mate that basically it had a few little issues. No, it didn't actually have any issues at the time. So he bought it off his mate, and he was like, right, I'm gonna own an Alpha, gonna do what. And it's a nice car, lovely. But of course, Alphas of the 80s had one big problem, which was rust. And it rusted so badly over the course of about 18 months that he could put his foot through the floor.
Nice.
So then basically, and it had a few electrical problems at that point, which all Alfa Romeos do. So he ended up selling it back to the mate that he bought it from. Lost a bit of money, obviously, because it had a few issues and rust and stuff like that. And yeah, that was it really. So he has owned. What's that?
You forgot the Bora.
Oh, of course. So sorry, I was going to go on to that. So since nearly a couple of years ago now, we now have in our ownership Rob's old car, which is a 2004 VW Bora, which I have to say is my first. So it's my dad's never owned a diesel car before. Prior to that, never had a diesel car. So this is his first experience with diesel. Actually suits him quite well, to be fair, because he does a lot of mileage and stuff like that. And the car over 200,000 miles, not missing a beat. So again, I think he was slightly skeptical of it, but I think he's actually grown to really like it because he says it actually drives very nice. Yeah, I think it does, because it's kind of like that halfway house. It's not as big as like a 5 Series or anything like that, but it's small enough to sort of dart around and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a golf with a boot. But yeah, essentially, yeah. But you know what? I actually quite like it now as well. I wouldn't have one, but I like it. And
you just wish your dad still owned his 240 though.
Oh yeah, I mean, if there had to be any car that I wish he could still have, it'd be cross between the first two, either the 240 or the 2002.
Oh yeah, for sure. Both.
I think those. What's that? Sorry.
The BMW 2002 is a fantastic looking car.
It is a fantastic looking car. It is a fantastic looking. So I think that kind of summarizes, like I say, we've got 3 kind of slightly different approaches here. You know, buying a car for reliability, then keeping it for a while, buying a car just to sort of get by for the sort of immediate future, or kind of the halfway house in between. And I think it's fair to say that we've all got our own styles and maybe adapted from that. I mean, Robbie, obviously you've taken very much to your mum's approach. I think that's fair to say, and so much so you've stuck with the same bloody brand as well. So pretty much, which is fine, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much to say. I mean, to defend that.
No, and there's.
I know where everything is when I open the bonnet.
valid way of doing it.
Mm-hmm. And Mike, you've kind of taken that approach, in terms of you've kind of gone for, because you've owned cars for relatively short periods of time.
Very short period of time. This is the first car I've owned more than. No, tell a lie. I think I owned.
You owned the Vectra for a little while.
Yeah, might have been more than a year. Other than that, in pretty short periods of time.
Wow. Well, and me, I'm kind of, as we know, we're kind of a mixture, really, of different cars. But I think, to be honest with you, what's that?
Nothing, mate. I was going to say you own cars for long periods of time, but they never work, so it's not really the reliability.
No, I think that's a fair comment. I think that's completely fair. Well, I think on that note, that kind of concluded all I wanted to say in this podcast. We've sort of got to that time again, as we always do. But chaps, just any concluding remarks on anything, of a car that you wish, out of all the ones we've mentioned today, you could actually have yourself, if you had to pick one?
BMW
I'd like to pick one 2002.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I wouldn't expect anything else from you guys, to be fair. The 2002 is a great car. And I don't know, that'd probably be the one I go for. The 240Z is also very close in that list.
Yeah.
It'd be really close to have, one or the other. Well, on that note, viewers, it's time to end. Thank you very much for listening to the Stories of Sash podcast. Thank you, chaps, for joining me on. We will talk again soon in the near future. I'm sure we have lots of more things to talk about. I'll dump some outro music and end it about now. Rob.